Welcome to the Fit Femme Project Alignment Podcast. It is here that we cultivate and gather all who have been through it in fitness, relationships, careers, lifestyle changes, and unforgettable crucial life pivots trying to achieve their most sovereign selves. We're here to provide you with thought-provoking, detailed stories and information from truly fascinating men and women from all walks of life, professions, generations, and modern-day sagas who speak to their rawest, darkest moments that made them the strong, decisive, humble, helpful, healing people that they are today. We ask them to hold nothing back because life is a multi-dimensional pursuit to be stronger, healthier, and more aligned mentally, emotionally, and physically. Let's go. Hey FFP fam, welcome back to today's episode. I have a very special one for you today because I am interviewing my friend Ariella. She is a certified personal trainer and certified nutritionist who wants to help others create a positive relationship with food and exercise, and by helping them experience the increased quality of life that can exist when you eat enough food and lift heavy things. And she is the owner of Habit Consulting. You can find her connections down in the show notes. Enjoy. All right, so let's start. Thank you for coming on, dear friend. So let's just hear your story. What led you to where you are today in your work, your life, mostly your work. I don't care about your personal life.
That doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, I feel like fitness has always been a part of my life. Health has always been a part of my life. My mom grew up with like a lot of digestive issues, health issues. So like I've always had kind of like this understanding of like we were always the family that had multivitamins in the morning. Oh, yeah. And, you know, we would have Halloween candy, Easter candy, and she would put in a bucket and keep it on the top of the fridge, and we were never allowed to have it because it was sugar. You know what I mean? So like
that was my mom.
Yes, exactly. And so then of course when we went over to our friends' houses and they had Pop-Tarts and cereal and things like that, it was like open the floodgates. I need it. So I've always kind of had like some underlying like health upbringing,
somewhat of a base,
100%. And then of course being a female growing up in the culture that we have, you know, with female standards, I of course was very highly into wanting to exercise to change my physical appearance and to look a certain way and to be a certain someone. And that started probably when I was in college, I would say. And I started with, you know, the only way to look a certain way is wake up at 4 a.m. and do boot camp. Oh. And I distinctly remember me and my college roommate at the time, we signed up for this boot camp, and we would always have to go for a run outside, right? It was like how we started the boot camp, whatever. He would like, you know, he would drive with us in his car.
Behind you while you ran?
Next to us as we were all running. Jeez. And literally, it was raining one morning, and we were out there, and we were running. And I think that was the class where I was like, okay, it's not that serious. It's not that big of a deal to make all of these pretty much females run at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, chill out. Yeah. So anyways, all that to say, I was that person where I was constantly chasing, like, it had to be the hardest in order to make sense. It had to be the most extreme. You had to, like,
beat yourself up.
Correct,
you had to punish yourself.
100%.
A lot of people are like that.
Well, because a lot of people, that's what you think it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that grind culture.
100%. And you get inundated with this new thing, and this new thing is usually a level of either extreme restriction, which is hard in and of itself, or a workout that is just no pain, no gain. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that whole mentality, like you said, like the grind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of just like evolved into, you know, continuing to take boot camp classes, staying on the treadmill, elliptical, getting into running, ignoring the fact that I was injuring my knee, but no pain, no gain. And you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. I ended up, you know, throughout college and, you know, into my 20s, I ended up developing some pretty significant digestive issues because of, yes, that was the exercise component, but the nutrition component was so out of control. I struggled a lot with binging. I struggled a lot with hiding my binges because I've always been a very small, petite person, and I feel like I always had to like live up to that expectation. You know what I mean? So like, how could she binge? She doesn't look the part kind of thing. And
so what like, I want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Like, what did that look like? Like, your binges? Like, what would you do? Like, how would you hide it? Like, what would you eat?
Oh, man. So, like, if I was living with my roommates at the time, I would say, like, we would make, like, a big dinner. I would say, hey, I have to go to the bathroom, or I wouldn't announce it, obviously, but, like, I would get
I have to go to the bathroom. Excuse me.
It was insinuated.
Yeah.
But I would stop in the kitchen, and I would take a few more bites, and then I would just come back in. You know what I mean? So, like, that, where it was, like, it was just very shameful. I felt very guilty. Or, like, when I was living with my husband now, who was my boyfriend at the time, you know, if he would go to the bathroom or, you know, not be in the room for whatever, and we were all, like, munching, I would eat as much as I could because he didn't see how much I was eating. So then, therefore, when he came back, nothing changed. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, I'm literally sitting on the couch and I'm physically uncomfortable for how full I am, and I still want more Oreos. It was so interesting. It's like, oh my gosh, I hate this feeling, but also give me more. You know what I mean? And I think it was because at the time when I was like developing all these digestive issues, it was so extreme. It was an extreme of restriction during the day, and everything I was eating during the day was like raw veggies, Whole30 kind of like food, if you will. And then at night, it was like literally a sugar rush. Wow. It was a sugar rush. It was a fat rush. You know what I mean? And so I just think that my body eventually was like, I cannot do this anymore, 100%. And it was kind of right around the time that I was like getting ready to get married. And so of course, you know, sweating for the wedding, like that whole mentality came in. So it was just only further exacerbated, and I had no idea. I just felt so out of control, and it was just the most frustrating thing in the entire world. And I had no idea that I was causing those issues myself. Like, I had no idea that I also had the power to like not feel that way. You know what I mean?
You just kind of thought that that's just how it was.
It's just how it was. And like everybody does this, right? Like, because no one talks about it, so obviously it must be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, got married. I ended up getting certified in a certified personal trainer. I think it was before I got married, right before I got married, because fitness had always like kind of just continued throughout my life. Like, that was just a constant in my life. And I had a kind of like a rough upbringing, and so I needed that constant. Like, exercise was always something that I knew was going to happen. I knew that I could do. It was something to fall back on, and it was just like almost like my therapy, if you will. Right. So boot camps turned into cardio turned into excessive cardio. Then I injured my knee, and then it got to the point where it was like, okay, girl, you can't run anymore. Like, take a hint. And then I found this online. It was free at the time. It was an online weighted HIIT company, if you will, and they broke up. It was like every workout was 12 minutes long, and then throughout the week you added all of those workouts. So by the time you hit Friday, it was 5 12-minute HIIT workouts that you did on Friday, like you built up to it. And I just loved the feeling of weights. That was like my first taste of like resistance training, like what that meant. And it coupled it with cardio, and I've always loved doing like intense, so it was fantastic. Then that kind of transferred into curiosity of me downloading the Nike app, because I've always been a very frugal person, and it was free. And I could do it at my home.
I mean, who isn't?
Let's be honest. Fitness is expensive. It's ridiculous.
It really is.
It's unfortunate, but anyways. Nike app, that was like more circuit training, more like, okay, we're going to use a little bit heavier weights, a little bit more in your time, kind of learning different movements, not necessarily focusing on explosive, plyo, cardio.
Did you have clients at this time? Because you're already certified, right?
No, I didn't. That's a good question. I didn't. I mostly got certified because I knew that was a direction I wanted to head.
Okay.
But I also wanted to have credentials because friends and family would ask advice. And I felt like there was something wrong with me to give them advice based on my experience. And my experience is not necessarily science. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to have the credentials to give those kinds of answers, to know what I was talking about, to give them solid advice, but also I knew that was like a direction that I was headed at the same time, if you will. And so Nike, more weights, things like that, and that kind of just like continued. I would take some, classes here or there. I was never a fan of like a gym, just because I'm a very efficient person. I don't like waiting for weights at the gym, like machines at the gym. And like,
Yeah.
I want to get in and I want to get out. So I've always loved just like home workouts. I've always loved like that freedom that
Did you ever have that gym's, how do they say it? Gym-anxiety, like anxiety gym?
Oh, 100%.
Just because of that, or just it was intimidating?
I think it was just intimidating.
Yeah.
I think when you're in like a new environment and like when you're used to the cardio machines and then you go into the weight section and there's all the bros there and here I am, you know what I mean? And I just didn't want to be in that environment. So it was just intimidating. It was like, oh, am I doing the exercise right? Am I doing an exercise or right? Exactly. Am I making this up? You know? So yeah, and then my husband and I, we moved to Nashville in 2016. And at that time, I partnered with a company and we did boot camp because that was my first love, right? Like that's what got me into it. So I wanted to get others into it. And it was a really fulfilling career path at the time. It was just really cool to be able to see people from like not being able to believe in themselves and telling me like, oh, I'll never be able to do that, to towards the end of, you know, my career with them, they were telling me that they loved burpees and they loved, you know, the hard workouts that I would, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was just really rewarding. It was very fulfilling and it was very like, this is why I got certified all those years ago. You know what I mean? To like build up from this time.
And that's how you met a lot of us.
And so, thank God.
I mean, not me directly, but like indirectly.
I mean, very indirectly, So yeah, it was interesting. And then like through that company, I met a lot of friends that I still have now. Like you said, like tons of my friends came from that company and I'm so very grateful for it. And that also kind of like the clients that I had, I'm so grateful that they trusted me so much with like all of their questions. And a lot of their questions started to have a lot to do with nutrition. And it wasn't necessarily the fitness aspect because they had that down. When they would come to my classes, they had it down.
Walter, don't step on the computer. He likes to lay right there. Let me move this.
I mean, it is his house.
Okay, you can lay down. Sorry.
Cats do what they do, let's be honest.
Good boy.
So yeah, they would ask me a bunch of nutrition questions, and similar to why I got certified for exercise, I was like, well, again, my experience is not science, and so I got certified in nutrition. And then at that time that I got certified, I was still dabbling in intermittent fasting. I was still dabbling in keto. I was still dabbling in all these diets.
So you had the workout stuff kind of nailed it, like easy peasy lemon squeezy, and you had that one other big element to go.
100%.
Right. 100%. So that was, we're still in 2016 before 2020?
Yeah, I would say 2016 into 2021, we'll say. So like kind of like that whole time frame, if you will. Got certified because again, if you're going to give people advice, I do believe that you need to have education and it doesn't just come towards your experience. You know what I mean? That's not fair. And so through that, you know, education, and I had already started to kind of like, I was working with macros at the time towards the end of my career with this company. And so I was dabbling in those diets, but then I was slowly starting to realize how unsustainable it was. And like when I was on keto, it was fine, but like, what about when I didn't want to be on keto? Like any time that keto, like, let's just say doesn't work, which is the majority of your life. You know what I mean? And so I was like,
good way to put it.
I mean, let's be honest. And so I was like, okay, like this cannot be so ridiculous. You know, like it can't be so on and off, like yada yada. So then I found macros and I was like, what do you mean I can eat whatever I want as long as it fits? Like you have no idea how great my Oreos can
crazy.
fit.
Like no, there's no way. There's no way.
There's no way.
But then
there's no way.
From my experience, it was like, are you serious? I have to do math for the rest of my life? No.
Very true. Very true.
It's like,
you are not wrong. Or Tetris. Like
Tetris,
literally Tetris with your numbers and your food.
It's
like so much thinking involved.
I know.
Like
so how did you
did you
okay, well, I guess you're about to go into this, but when you discovered macros, did you get some extra like nutritional like training or certifications?
No.
Or was it just hard knocks?
Yeah, no. To be honest with you, I taught myself macros. I taught myself how to spread out your macros, how different macros makes you feel different ways. Wow, when I had this breakfast that had a lot of fat, I seemed to not get hungry until 4 versus, you know what I mean? Like, so a lot, like literally macros, for my experience, was very self-taught. And so that's why I very much believed in macros, to the point that that was kind of like the direction of the nutritional advice that I wanted to give people, because first of all, science, second of all, ease and longevity and, sustainability, health, all of that stuff. But also, it's something that can be so simple that I taught myself the ins and outs of it. You can absolutely teach yourself the ins and outs. You know what I mean? Like, and it's trial and error, don't get me wrong. So you got to be patient with yourself, but it's possible is my point. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so all of that to say, when I ended up getting certified as a nutritionist, I did get an extra specialty certification in macro specifically, because I wanted that extra like bump, if you will.
Oh, okay, got it.
And then throughout that time, I kind of started my own thing, and it was kind of just like a very natural segue into, well, this is the training style that literally makes sense, that's been around for years and years, that I've seen success in my life, also success in other people's life. This is the nutritional advice that I have personally followed, that I believe in, that has gotten me where I am, that is also backed by science. You know what I mean? So it was just a very natural like path to be where I am now. And now it's just to the point where it's like, I just want to help other people see how easy it can be. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It feels overwhelming. We talk about this a lot in past episodes, where it does feel overwhelming, because anything new is, no matter what it is, anything new that you don't know, of course it's going to feel overwhelming or, scary, if you will. So, but it's just, it really is easy when you look at it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, when people get so used to following a diet with a name, that diet with a name usually leaves no room for error, right? Like, if you mess up, you mess up. So
that's a great point.
So like keto, for example, and not to just keep bringing, okay, we're going to just get along really quick.
We're going to get along really quick.
We're going to get along real quick.
He's still looking at her like, bitch.
Guys, love each other.
Sorry.
You're fine. I don't mean to keep bringing up keto, but I do think that it's still
I talk
very
about
prevalent.
it a lot.
Yes.
It's just an example.
So anytime I use that word, interchange it with any other diet.
It's any fad diet, yeah.
Correct. So, with keto, for example, if you ate over your quote-unquote net carbs, you threw yourself out of ketosis, and oh no, it's going to take days to get back into, you know what I mean? So there is zero room for error. And so I think a lot of times when I'm trying to teach people macros, and I'm trying to teach people how easy it can be if they allow it to be that easy, is really realizing how forgiving it can be. And it's not about doing it 100%. It's about doing your best. And like you said, it's overwhelming because it's new. And like, just try. You know what I mean? Like, put the effort behind what you're doing. Think about what you're doing. Use your log to understand what you're eating versus to hit certain numbers.
Yeah.
Day and day, time and repetition, you will build that skill of, wow, it can be that simple. I can go out to eat with my friends and pre-log it, or have a thought before I do it. It's about being in control of your choices. It's not just letting life take you away and then 15 years later being like, what happened? Exactly.
No, that's a really good point.
So
when did you start Habit Consulting?
That was, I can't believe I don't know that answer off the top of my head. This has been my brainchild.
It's been your actual baby.
Literal. That must have been, we're in 2023, right? So that was in April of 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty immediately.
Little baby.
Yeah. My little baby. And it's evolved. It's been pretty close to what it was initially when I started, but it's definitely evolved into something that I wasn't expecting. And of course, am I nowhere near my forever plans, if you will. Right. So like we're just keeping it going. We're just loving life.
How did you come up with that brand, I guess, the name? It's such a great name.
I'm glad you think so, because if I could show you the notebooks of pages of me just writing random names,
That's the creative process.
It's ridiculous. And for a type A person like myself who just wants the answer, I don't love the creative process. It was not something I enjoyed. Meanwhile, my friends are like, just start. Like, why do you need a name?
Yeah.
I need it.
Yeah.
I need a website. I need all of these things. That's a great question. Consulting, I knew I wanted consulting in the name because I'm a trainer, I'm a nutrition coach, but really it's consulting about your health. It's consulting about, trying something new that has the potential to give you the freedom that you really are looking for. You know what I mean? So I knew I wanted consulting, and so it was just a matter of like what next to it. And habit I kept going back to habit because anything in fitness, health and fitness, comes back to your habits. Anything. And, habits take time and repetition. Habits take, it's not necessarily you having to do task accomplish. It's always something that you can fall back on. It's always something that you can use to your advantage to build on. Yeah. So it's very user friendly. You can toggle back and forth, like if you don't have time to work out that day, cool. Well, focus on your nutrition, and maybe tomorrow you'll have time to work out.
Yeah.
If you didn't nail your water today, hey, how did that make you feel? Probably not great. That's a habit. You know what I mean? So it just felt very much like workouts are a habit. Your nutrition is a habit. Your healthy habits are a habit, and everything comes back to that time and repetition. Everything comes back to building habits for sustainability, and eventually you still have to choose to do it. It's just not like pulling teeth.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Like it becomes a lot easier.
It's a lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like you build a habit to turn it into a routine, to turn it into a lifestyle, to just turn it into something you do without deciding to do it,
Yeah, yep. I think, well, before I say that, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
BRB. Back on track.
Hey.
So where we left off talking about your business and habits and why you felt that was like so important. So with the habits, I think one of the point that I was going to make before we had to stop was that we talk about it a lot on the podcast and how the science behind changing your habits, like the process your brain goes through, and that's why it is so hard.
Yes.
And what helped me in the long run was like understanding just how my brain works in general. And that made it easier and gave me the ability to have more grace with myself, to be like, okay, my brain is just going through this process of doing new connections, and let's give it some time.
Yes.
So yeah,
it's like being patient with yourself, which is so hard to do.
It is. And we preach that a lot, just like having like grace on yourself. How often do you have to do that with your clients? Like remind them of that.
Oh, it's a constant. But it's not even a constant like, oh, this happened, I fell off the horse, I feel so bad. And obviously that's a coachable moment to be like, no, let's look underneath the surface. You didn't sleep last night, you didn't do, you know what I mean? Like
there's more to
it. Like give yourself grace. But also at the same time, a lot of that comes from they don't even realize when they're being so hard on themselves too. And so it's very easy for me to be like, to identify where they're being hard on themselves because again, they're holding themselves to the same standard every single day, not giving themselves a buffer, which is grace for life. Not giving themselves a plan B if plan A doesn't work. Because again, they're used to, if there is no room for error, then I can't have any error here. And I think it also at the same time, over time, when they realize, zoom out, think of where you started, think of where you're at now, and look at all of the progress in between, right?
That's why a coach is so important.
Oh man, it's
like I know mentally that I've come a long way.
Yeah.
Like I look better, I've lost weight, I no longer do this thing that wasn't helping me.
Totally.
And Lindsay will just point out, she's like, I want you to look at the one physical difference, and then like I remember when we were just working together and then you were doing these things, look at how far you come, like forcing me to think about it. Like
Correct.
That's why a coach is so important.
Correct. Well, and also too, like how many times I'm sure with your coach, maybe she gave you some advice and maybe you didn't follow that advice as closely. So maybe you wanted to take the reins and like change your numbers or do extra workouts or whatever the case. You wanted to react. You wanted to take control because like, oh, let me get back on. And it's like a coach is there to be like, no, this is what we're doing. I understand that you think that this is what's best, but I am removed from your emotions, and therefore I can tell you like that will lead you down one path and this is going to lead you down another. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorite analogies to describe what a coach does or is a bowling alley. And you know the bumpers for the little kids? Yep. I was like, so your coach is the bumpers, you're the bowling ball.
That's genius. That is genius.
Like you might zigzag around, but they're there to like keep you in the lane.
I'm totally stealing that. That is genius. It's so true though.
Isn't it? Yeah. So it's like, okay, one, understand that it's not going to be a straightforward path. Yes. And we all know that. Everybody mentally knows that success isn't this like, straight line process. Totally. It's this weird looking maze.
Don't even know if it's a shape, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's no shape.
It's just there.
So I wanted to ask, kind of go back onto some of the struggles that you've dealt with, and touch on the binge eating that you talked about earlier.
Yes.
How long did it take for you to, I guess, overcome that? And what was that process like in coming to terms with it and then healing yourself?
Yeah, totally. I think that there were many, like towards the end of when I realized something has to change, this is no longer sustainable, or I'm just sick of feeling this way. Like,
what year was this? Where are we at?
Oof. Maybe 2013? Okay. Potentially? Ish, give or take a few years.
I get it. I just kind of wanted to know where we're at in the timeline
100%. 100%. There were many times, I was eventually diagnosed with IBS because of all of like the chaos in my life. I was going
to ask that.
Yes. It was IBS-C. There's different IBSs. So
I did not know that.
Yes. I had IBS-C. And so I was dealing with the flare-up of IBS. And I remember I was laying on my couch and I was just crying. I was just in so much discomfort. It wasn't even pain. It was just so much discomfort. I was so inflamed. I was so unhealthy, for lack of a better word, that I finally was just like, I cannot do this anymore. Like, I have to crawl myself out of this hole, and I have to understand why that is. And I think that with my underlying nutrition health based from my mom, like I said earlier, I would reach out to her. I would ask her, like, can I eat any of these things? And she would tell me, there are certain foods that break down into your system that are maybe healthy, but are not necessarily healthy for you.
Is your mom, does she have some sort of like background in nutrition, or is it just she just knows this stuff?
No, just self-taught. Like she literally has this this
sounds just like my mom.
Oh, it's crazy. and to be
has
honest
no
with
degree,
you,
but she knows so much.
Yes. It's the typical like answer, like, oh, just call my mom, she knows.
Yeah.
But like truly she knows. Like, and I had no idea that like a lot of the things that she said like is science. And I don't think that she necessarily knew that at the time, but it was her experience, and that's why our experiences are so important. It can really influence people. And at the time, she was describing what I know now as, and I always get this wrong, I call it low food map. It's FODMAP. It's FODMAP, but I call it food map because that's just how my brain thinks of things. Food is life. Hashtag. And so she was describing, some things, that your body can't break down, yada, yada. And so then I started like researching foods that I was eating that were causing issues in my gut and that were causing the imbalance that was, if you will. And that was causing me to be so full throughout the day. That plus me being so full from the binge the night before. It was causing me to be so full throughout the day that I wouldn't be hungry, and if I wasn't hungry, why eat, right? Little did I know that by me not eating throughout the day, even though I was full, from the night before binge, from foods that I was eating that was causing inflammation at the same time.
Yeah.
That was leading the binge that same night.
Wow.
Because I was so restricted, because my body didn't have any sustenance that day. And so at night, my body was finally crying out for something.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't physically feel hungry, that was like my sign that I started realizing, okay, so you need to eat every single day, right? And then that turned into, I would wake up feeling so disgustingly bloated full, and then think of having to shove breakfast down your throat.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to keep feeling that way. You know what I mean? Like, and I was just sick of it. So then I started to just bring my willpower in. I'm a very disciplined person when I want to be.
Yeah.
Bring my willpower in, and I tried to just like rein in the self-control one night. And I woke up the next day and I wasn't as full. Surprise, surprise. And I would eat my flat ab food breakfast because I was still in that frame of mind. And I noticed that I felt better throughout the day. I had more energy. I know I was in college, so I could think better.
Right.
And I also noticed that my cravings at night were lessened. I still had cravings. Obviously, this took time and repetition. Right. I still had cravings. I still had to bring out that willpower, but it was easier for me over time to practice restraint when my hormones were not working against me from being restrictive throughout the day, from the binges the night before. So as you can tell, it's just like, it's so multifaceted.
It really is.
And binging, you know, from what I've learned in not only my education, but my experience with working with many people who binge, is it's so psychological. It is so psychological. And it's some of the psychology is, you know, experiences that we've had when we were younger that we were just left to feel inadequate, right? We were left to feel maybe it was a scar, like a trauma or something that we like had to go through, that like eating was comfort. And so we needed that security blanket, you know what I mean? So all of that to say, it took a long time to overwhelm, but that was the gist of me being fed up, changing. There always has to be a change. Anytime you have to like grow, you have to change what you're doing. It's not just going to happen magically. And then through that, with time and repetition, I had an aha moment that was like, oh my gosh, I was my own problem.
Yeah. I love, basically, if I were to describe what you just talked about, was that you, got fed up, tired of your own shit. We've all been there. Yep. And then
it's necessary.
Yeah. And then you also, from what it sounds like, you just decided to do like an experiment. You practiced some self-control the night before, and then you did this thing, and then, I actually feel pretty good. So did you go back to that moment a lot in those times that you struggled and wanted to just like, you know, eat the entire Oreo pack? Be like, I remember how good I felt that one time, and 100. That's kind of like what fueled you?
Yeah, and I just think I am also a kind of person that when I decide to do something, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'm not like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm grateful for it now. My poor, mother growing up, I was very strong-willed, but hey, look, Mom, I made it. It's worked out in my benefit. Because I decided once I had a positive experience from that experiment, as you said, it was like, how far can I push this? Where is this going to take me? Now I'm just curious. You know what I mean? Like now I just want to see like what's next. And that kind of just led down a trajectory of living it out, trial and error, that led me into trying a low food map diet, anti-inflammation diet, trying to heal my gut, trying to heal all of these things, more experiments, trial and error, entering food back into my system that I had eliminated for that time. You know what I mean? And then through that, realizing the power that food does have. And you are what you eat. And if I eat, foods that might taste good in the moment, it's going to make me feel good in the moment. But the next day, I'm not going to be sustained. And so it's going to make it so much harder for me to want to stay, quote unquote, compliant.
Right.
And also at the same time, learning that all health food is not healthy.
Right.
Health is definitely that's a subjective term. Very much so. Where some people need to allow themselves to eat a piece of pizza, someone else also needs to try to not eat the piece of pizza. You know what I mean? So health is very relative. At least that's what I believe. And so when I realized, like, carrots are healthy, but my body doesn't like carrots, so therefore carrots are not healthy for me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That
led me on to, wow, nutrition is really powerful.
Yeah. Do you still deal with any IBS stuff, or you got to...
I would say I haven't.
Can you get healed from that, or is it just kind of something you deal with and kind of manage?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you do. I also think that there's a lot of science that's coming out that's like IBS is just like a diagnosis that doctors just
umbrella
give you.
term.
Yes, because they don't know what else to say. You know what I mean? Because that's just
Everyone's
a good point. Different.
I'm glad you said that. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that you can heal IBS if you can identify the cause, which a lot of people.
That's hard.
They're so tired by the time that they get to that point that they're like, I don't have it in me, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't blame them. I mean,
it's a lot of work to do an
a lot of
elimination
work.
diet. I did that when I did Whole30. You know, what you're supposed to do after that
Right.
is reintroduce slowly. I was like, no,
It's hard. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because you reached your deadline, right? You reached that timeline, and now you're just like, I got to keep working, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm done.
Just want to be normal.
So what were some of the other struggles over the years for you?
I would say, and I still kind of like have these struggles here and there. I've just learned to identify maybe what causes them and how I can at least work through them. But I have struggled with mental health for a long time, for a very long time. I had a pretty like rough, I shouldn't say rough, but I had a pretty unstable childhood, if you will. So that kind of led me to have a lot of anxiety that turned into depression. And I think living with that undiagnosed for such a long time and just kind of feeling very out of control, if you will. And so I think that when I found exercise, that was a way for me to stay in control. That was a way for me to fall back on, a constant, that it wasn't a matter of if I was going to do it, it was a matter of when I was going to do it. And it was a matter of what kind of exercise I was going to do. That was going to happen no matter what, you know? That's why rest days used to be so hard for me.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, what are you going to do?
I don't understand people like you. I'm like, bro, put me up in front of a TV all day.
Oh, no. I said used to. We grow, girl.
Yeah, good. I'm so proud of you.
So that was, and I also feel like too, especially when I was depressed, that's very much when I really loved the HIIT workouts, because it was an opportunity for me to just do something so hard and so challenging and get it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or go for a run. And that was just like, my mind just shut off. And I was just alone in these pads, and it was just fantastic. You know what I mean? Like an escape, if you will. And then that, you know, that transferred into food. I felt so out of control with food, with my binging, with the IBS, with everything that, you know, that encompassed.
You needed something.
I needed something. It was so peaceful when I realized, oh my gosh, the puzzle piece fit. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It was so peaceful when I was like, it does not matter what happens in my day. I know that I can control this. To a whatever degree that is, I can control.
Pretty big degree.
A very big degree.
Yeah.
And then because I can control this, I can therefore, to a certain degree, control how I feel and my thoughts and my, you know what I mean?
So it's snowballed into
very
realizing
much.
your own personal power.
100%.
Aww.
100%. So like, I mean, there are still days where like, you know, depression and anxiety still creeps in. Anybody that struggles with that knows that's never there's no finality to it. You know what I mean? But I definitely think that it's given me tools to be able to be like, yeah, you know what? Today is going to be a hard day. It's a bad brain day. That's what I call them.
Oh my God. That's perfect.
Today is going to be a bad brain day. So keep your head down. Focus on what you can control. And what things can you control today? You can control what you eat.
Yeah.
You can control how you move, or if you move, if you want to, or maybe you just literally can't. but at least you're choosing it. It's
Yeah.
not something choosing it for you.
Absolutely.
Life isn't choosing it for you. You know what I mean?
Can I give you a hug on one of your bad brain days?
They're there.
Just be like, text me a picture of a brain or emoji of a brain, and I'll come over.
I'm thinking of, what is it? Brainiac from like the
Oh,
Animaniacs.
Pinky in the Brain?
Yes,
Wait,
yes, that's what I'm thinking. You can be Pinky, I'll be the brain.
Okay.
I'll just text you that picture. You'll know what it means. It's fine.
I'm coming. Oh.
Got to love it.
Yeah, well, because like I just never, I mean, I don't know, I could say this the very correct way, but I don't have mental health struggles.
Yeah.
I get there are days where I'm like I was telling you earlier, I had that like cabin fever. I'm like, I feel weird, blah blah blah. So like when I hear people talk about like their mental health struggles, it just makes me want to be like, you can have some of mine. You can have some of my brain.
I'll share.
Yeah, I'll share. I got plenty to go around.
Take a part, any part.
Yeah. Just take it.
It's so much to give.
I know. Well, I'm here for you. Okay, so I have 2 more questions. I thought of one as we were talking.
Yeah.
But it'll be the last one. But the second to last one would be if you were to pick anybody in your sphere of influence to positively connect to our listeners, who would you pick?
I would say...
Ding, ding, ding.
It's just so hard because there's
I
so
know.
many people that I feel like are just so great. You know what I mean?
Who was the first person that you thought of when I asked that? Literally, like, that person right then and there.
I mean, yeah, that's a great question. Also, I really struggle making decisions. So, hi, that's
You
me.
do. But you're not deciding anything. You're just picking, okay, 2 people. Does that help?
2 people. So, I would say the person that really got me into fitness is Marcia Monaco.
Okay.
She is like childhood friend. I was her guinea pig when she got certified. And because I was her guinea pig, that's really what just like took my interest to the next level. So I would say Marcia.
She's still a trainer?
She's not.
Or coach or whatever?
She's not. No, she's an entrepreneur still. She's always been an entrepreneur. And I think she's doing right now a startup in Colorado. So yeah.
Okay.
That would be her. And then I would say somebody else. Is gonna have to be, we'll say, yeah, we're just gonna say Allie.
I knew you were going to say Allie.
Her story just like,
Yeah.
she's just a really great person.
She is.
She's got a lot of good energy. You know what I mean?
I love her.
Yeah, and
I
she's
haven't
just.
seen her lately, but yeah.
How did you know I was gonna say her?
For some reason, I was just like, I feel like she's going to say Ellie. Like, I just felt
She's just
I just
great.
felt it. Yeah. Okay.
Good
All right.
vibes.
Good vibes for sure. My other question would be your top 3 to 5 guilty pleasures.
Oh
I
man.
was like, this is the perfect
That's
person to ask
easy.
this. Yeah. I was asking this to Casey one time. She's like, no, driving. I'm like, driving?
Oh no, all of mine literally came food. Like I have 20 answers all regarding food.
Okay. Then let's do it. Let's hear. I know one of them is burgers.
Burgers,
Yeah.
fact. But it has to be, this is literally my perfect burger.
You kidding? Perfect.
It's gonna be a double smash patty
Oh, yeah.
in my belly with American cheese on both pieces, not one, but both, caramelized onions,
Okay.
brioche bun toasted with mayo and ketchup. That is like, I will eat all of them.
Wow.
Yeah. Pepperoni pizza with jalapenos.
Okay.
Oreo thins, because I don't love the cream, so like the thin allows me to have more of the chocolate.
Okay.
Oreo thins, and then street style verde tacos.
Yeah.
In my belly.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, what's one non-food?
Oh, wow. What's the point of life? What is the point of life? Honestly, being around water. Like, I love water.
Me too.
Period.
I love it.
I got a paddleboard last year, and it's probably one of the most therapeutic things that you can do is just like by yourself. Go out there and you're just laying on your paddleboard in the middle of water, and it's just so peaceful.
I love that.
Any water, I don't care what kind.
I'm so happy you said that because that's so true for me as well. But I'd rather just like somebody else do the work.
Oh, totally.
Paddle me out there. I'm not gonna do nothing.
It's exhausting when it's windy. I've gone out there before, and like it just keeps bringing me back. 15 minutes, I'm like, all right, I'm done. This is not.
That's why I was like inviting myself onto your guys' boat when I knew you bought one. I was like, you're inviting me. You know that, right?
100%. And then we took it out like 3 times.
Yeah, well, there's always next year. It's
crazy.
Okay.
Boats are just.
Yeah, well, I think that's everything I had. Where can people find you? What are your socials?
Instagram is, I would say, where I'm the most
Okay.
on it. I don't know the word for that, but on
Active,
it is active. There you go. Thank you.
No problem.
It's at Habit Consulting. Facebook, I'm on there at Habit Consult. But I'm definitely way more interactive, way more active on Instagram, for sure.
Okay, check the show notes.
You know.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. You can stay as long as you like. I'm sure we'll have you back on because you're a joy and a peach to talk to.
Maybe we can talk about bad brain days.
Yeah, we're gonna have an episode fully dedicated to a bad brain day and what you can do.
Yeah.
Oh man, I get so creative sometimes at the end of these episodes.
I mean, that's why you're good at what you do. Let's be honest.
Stop. All right, well, until that time, peace out. Say bye to the camera.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the FFP Alignment Podcast. Please support us by downloading, rating, and recommending us to your friends and family. Be sure to check us out on Instagram at the FitFemme Project. That's FITFEMME Project. And for those of you looking to find their essential balance of lifestyle and fitness, book a free consult by going to thefitfemmeproject.com. That's FITFEMME Project.com and click Apply Now. Until next time, this is the FitFemme Project Alignment Podcast.